Poles have elected members of the European Parliament. Almost 12 million eligible voters went to the polls, a turnout of just over 40%. This is lower than 5 years ago. The two main parties garnered the vast majority of the seats out of the 53 allocated to Poland. Civic Coalition 21, Law and Justice 20. Confederation won 6 seats, defeating the Third Way and the Left with 3 seats each. The 10th term of the European Parliament will begin tomorrow, but MEPs will not start work until mid-July. Informal talks will be held this week about expanding the existing political groups or merging them. There is hope that we can have a real impact on changing climate or migration policy. The distribution of seats looks like this. Contrary to our hopes, nothing will change. No, look at the fact that we have about 100 seats unaffiliated. What does this mean? Probably 6 of the Confederation's MEPs are counted amongst those unaffiliated. The results of the European elections have led to a change in the French political scene. Right-wing leader Marine Le Pen is celebrating her party's victory, while far behind her is the party of President Emmanuel Macron, who has decided to dissolve parliament. The first round of elections will be held on the 30th of June. It is worth noting that it is the victory of Le Pen's national unity that will strengthen the right-wing front in Europe. I have decided to return the choice regarding the future of our Parliament to you. Tonight I am dissolving our National Assembly. The decision is serious and difficult, but above all it is an act of trust in you, my fellow citizens. Sensational news is also coming from Belgium. Prime Minister Alexander De Croo, along with his government, has resigned after a surprisingly poor result for his party. The inefficiency of the European Union as it relates primarily to the security of its citizens is so evident that citizens are fleeing from those so far in power. In Germany, on the other hand, the conservative AfD achieved its best result ever, even beating Chancellor Olaf Scholz's SPD. The election was won by the Christian Democrat CDU-CSU coalition. Chancellor Scholz may be forced to resign because of his party's third place, which cannot be considered a success. Environmental policy in Germany is already ceasing to gain traction, and the Greens have a serious problem. Conservative parties in Italy, led by Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, emerged even stronger from Sunday's elections. In Spain, the centre-right one. In the Netherlands, the Greens and the Labour Party. It's a shame that the right-wing parties received so many votes. I would have preferred parties with a democratic profile to have a better result. I am concerned about the direction in which Europe is heading, but the increase in support for the right is a clear sign that I am no exception. It turns out that Russia and Belarus have also made their mark in the European elections. Poles there elected the Civic Coalition. In the United States, on the other hand, Law and Justice won. Simply put, this myth, which was created by Donald Tusk that Law and Justice has some contacts with Russia or ties to Russia, is collapsing. Absolutely not. Today, Law and Justice activists have the right to say that it is the Civic Coalition that has more ties with Russia. After the elections, there will be a reshuffle in the top positions of the European institutions. In play is the seat of the President of the European Commission, Parliament and the European Council. It is in the fight for these positions that the right-wing front can take advantage of its better position. Idiot, look, he's jumping, destroying things. This is not Paris nor Berlin. This is Warsaw. Dear God, what is this moron doing? Yes, a 26-year-old immigrant from Rwanda in the city centre, right next to a luxury car dealership, trashed a car at random. You have to call because now this one, and we don't know which one, will be next. The migrant attacked a man passing by on a scooter at one point. A security guard from a nearby car dealership then intervened. The aggressor was apprehended by police. In connection with the incident that occurred in the area of Gottsław, we would like to inform you that police officers only a dozen minutes after the report detained a 26-year-old Rwandan citizen. The man was presented with the charge of destruction of property. There will most likely be more situations like this. Statistics show that in countries that face a problem of illegal mass migration, the number of crimes, including violent or sexual crimes, is also on the rise. If we accept these economic social migrants in an uncontrolled way, this kind of behaviour will certainly accompany us permanently. As of 2026, according to the recently adopted Migration Pact, all European Union countries, including Poland, will have to accept migrants into their country or pay tens of thousands of euros for each person refused. Poland will be a beneficiary of the Migration Pact. We have managed to force these countries to sign an agreement in which they say they will either accept them, like France, Italy or Spain, or contribute financially to defend the external border. Up until now, Poland has been one of the few European Union countries to disagree with the open borders policy pushed by Germany, among others, since 2015. Even then, it was opposed by the Law and Justice government. At the time, I said, it is necessary to help, but on the spot in those countries where they live, while under no circumstances can we agree that they should come to Poland, that they should be forced on us. The question of migration policy also appeared on the referendum ballots last autumn, but most voters in the then opposition boycotted the referendum. I solemnly before you annul this referendum. Opening the borders to immigrants is also consistently called for by Szymon Hołownia. We need 1 million migrants in the labour market today so that our labour market doesn't collapse. The Migration Pact won't take effect until a year and a half from now, but as TV Republica revealed, local governments have already been ordered to look for accommodation for this purpose. I would like to ask you to identify places and facilities possible for the mass influx of foreigners to the territory of Poland, other than those covered by assistance under the Act of the 12th of March 2022 on assistance to citizens of Ukraine in connection with the armed conflict on the territory of that country. This is quite characteristic of Donald Tusk. He keeps deceiving the Polish public. He doesn't inform about what he is doing, and thanks to a TV station like Republica, we are able to learn something about what is happening in Poland. So instead of solving the problem, we are witnessing its escalation, and there is no indication that this will change in the near future. Konrad Wąż, TV Republica. Exactly 10 years we waited for this first place on the podium. Listen, I am so happy. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk is euphoric. The question is whether his victory will turn out to be Pyrrhic. If one converts the official percentage results of the elections to the Euro Parliament seats into seats in the Polish Parliament, the winner turns out to be Law and Justice. Added to this is the very good result of the Confederation, at more than 50 seats. We overtook the third way ahead of the left. This is a very important success for the Polish political scene, showing that the ideological right is able to attract new voters, that Poles do not want to reward the politically correct party going to the left to the end. If there had been elections to the same yesterday, the left would have barely crossed the electoral threshold. We have 3.5 years to rebuild trust, the kind we had in 2019 when we went to the Parliament. The third way, which won only 6.9% of the vote, falling short of the 8% electoral threshold for the coalition, would not be in Parliament. Why are the third way's results worse? Well, TV Republica's lies certainly had their effect here. We appreciate the proficiency of this station, but PSL Third Way is in trouble because yesterday's results mean that they did not bring their MPs to the village. The right, that is Law and Justice, along with the Confederation in the same, would have had 251 seats, while Tusk and his appendages would have had 209. Right-wing parties, parties of the extreme right, their characteristic is that they give very easy answers to very difficult questions that are before us today. Tusk's appendages must also reflect on the change between the autumn elections last year and yesterday's. In 8 months alone, the right gained nearly 6 percentage points. The coalition lost more than 3. On top of that, there is huge friction in the coalition that Tusk leads. If the third way does not make it clear that we have a coalition government, not a Donald Tusk government, then let it disband and forget about the project. Law and Justice wishes to find a solution to return to first place among political parties. What is needed is a white-red front. This white-red front will certainly eventually come into being, and it is this front, in addition to our other actions, that will bring us victory. Polls also point to this. A Law and Justice coalition with Confederation is the only chance to remove Tusk from power. I, for a long time, not only do not attack the Confederation, despite the fact that I myself have been attacked by them more than once, but I think that for the good of Poland it is worthwhile to agree beyond certain disagreements and misunderstandings, and this is how I treat our potential partners from the Confederation. They also have really very good ideas. Law and Justice has something to think about. We were hoping for a first place on the podium. Lessons will have to be learned from this. But which ones, of course, it's too early to make predictions now, as results are needed for that. The question is how the final result was affected by the arrangement of the lists. Did Jarosław Kaczyński, by putting up such strong lists in one district with many strong names, instead of strengthening these lists, actually strengthen the divisions within the party? In many regions, I think this is indeed what happened, that instead of uniting the right, there were conflicts undermining each other internally. This does not serve the party, which is in a difficult situation.
Zabrakło też.
There was also a lack of good communication with voters, hence the lower turnout in the southeast, where Law and Justice traditionally has the highest support.
Problem elektoratu.
The problem of the electorate of Law and Justice is not that they got offended and went elsewhere, because in a small way a little went to the Confederation, but these are small numbers, about 250,000 votes. 40-something% of the electorate stayed home compared to the previous elections, because no one asked them to vote.
Tego błędu.
This mistake was not made by the Civic Coalition. Adrian Boretsky, TV Republica. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk announced plans in May to reintroduce a 200-metre buffer zone at the Belarus border, where a migrant crisis has been intensifying in recent weeks, with an increase in violent incidents that have already led to the death of one soldier. European countries accuse Belarus, a Russian ally, of engineering a migration crisis by flying in people from the Middle East and pushing them to attempt to illegally cross into the European Union. Poland plans to spend 10 billion zloty on strengthening defences at the border. Those whose incomes depend on tourism in the Białowieża forest, a UNESCO World Heritage Site that straddles the border with Belarus, expect the introduction of the buffer zone to damage their businesses.
Szczególne miejsce.
The Białowieża National Park is a special place in Europe when it comes to tourism, and unfortunately we see the first consequences of this news about the introduction of a buffer zone that has dropped on us. People cancel their reservations. My friends who run private lodgings here already receive cancellations. Everyone is asking whether it is safe here, or they simply cancel their bookings.
Anuluje tą rezerwację na bookingu.
Polish Defence Minister Władysław Kostyniak-Kamysz has said that the army, police and border guard would use accommodation near the border, which would provide a form of compensation to some business owners. He has also said that the presence of security services near the border would make tourists feel more secure and that some businesses may be able to receive compensation. Tourism already took a hit when the previous government introduced a buffer zone when the migrant crisis first broke out in 2021, and when it later erected a 5-metre high metal barrier on the border. At the time, environmentalists warned that the project could threaten the unique forest and its wildlife.